So according to Khamzat Chimaev, he has been told by the UFC that his next opponent is Kamaru Usman in Abu Dhabi in October at UFC 294. And this is a massive, massive matchup that has been hinted at for quite some time now. Some people were talking about this. Both of them went back and forth on Twitter, sort of like hinting at the idea that maybe this fight was going to be next to happen. And now we have some kind of confirmation on what is next for Khamzat Chimaev, because a lot of people were confused by the fact that Paulo Costa has been paired up with Ikram Aliskerov when the UFC said that they were going to do Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev. So there was a little bit of confusion, but now we have some kind of understanding. I hope this happens at 170 pounds. I'm not sure what weight class this will be, but Khamzat Chimaev said that he's willing to fight at any weight, 170, 185, even 205. This needs to happen at 170 pounds. I know the weight cut is tough for Khamzat Chimaev, but this is a lot of notice for him. It's a long time until October. A very long time until October. Just under 5 months until that card, I believe. So that is enough time for him to make it to 170 pounds with all the preparation that he needs. And it's also enough time for Kamaru Usman to take a little bit of time, not rush back into things, because he's not really been looking himself recently, and really recompose himself, get some good quality training in, get some good recovery in as well, and then be back to fight Khamzat Chimaev at 170 pounds. This is massive, and if it does take place at 170 pounds, then Belal Muhammad is a... Belal Muhammad. Oh my God, dude. If Khamzat Chimaev smokes Usman in the first round in any way, or just finishes Usman in a great performance, nice win over Gilbert Burns, dude. Really good one, dude. Chimaev just beat Usman. You know what I'm saying? He just destroyed him. So, sorry, Belal. Looks like it's you versus Neil Magny next. Who knew? It's so tough for Belal Muhammad, but it's so funny because things just don't seem to be working out for him. And also, this fight should take place at 170. I don't like, and I feel the same way about McGregor versus Chandler as well. There was some talk about that fight taking place at 170 as well. I don't like this whole, we're relevant in this weight class, but let's fight at the weight class above it. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and it makes it hard to sort of adjust the rankings in a division that they're actually respected in. You know, Usman's number 1 in the welterweight division, and you've got Khamzat Chimaev, I believe, at number 4. Maybe Belal Muhammad has even moved above Khamzat Chimaev, and I'm not too sure. But, like, it needs to take place in the division that they're ranked in. And I do believe that Khamzat Chimaev will beat Kamaru Usman. I do think he will. I think Usman's not looking the same at all recently. And I said this before because a lot of people were saying, oh my God, Usman's improving at such a rapid rate when they were looking at all of his fights. And I was like, is Usman improving at such a rapid rate? Or is he fighting all the same people twice? So he's just getting better in the rematch now that he's actually prepared for them. And he knows what they're going to bring to the table. A lot of people were saying stuff like, oh my God, Usman's showing crazy improvement, by using the example of, well, the first Masvidal fight went like this and the second fight went like this. And there is some truth to that. His striking did get a little bit better when he went over to train with Trevor Whitman. His striking seemed to improve quite a bit. And we saw that in the Covington fight. Remember, he took a long time to hurt Covington. It took him till the later rounds, round 5, to hurt Covington in that matchup. But then in the rematch, he hurt him in round 2 and he found those shots a little bit sooner. But they're the same opponents, and I do want to say this, although Usman's striking might have gotten a little bit better, I believe his grappling has plateaued. I really do think it has. His grappling has hit its peak, and now it's like he's trying to keep the level of athleticism and like health that his body has to pull off the grappling that he needs to pull off without losing too much of it, and he's slowly losing his grappling ability as time goes on. Like, we don't see control from him on the ground. We don't see effective ground and pound. I remember Usman coming up and battering RDA on the ground. I know RDA is a smaller guy for the division, but he's no slouch on the ground. He knows how to stuff takedowns and get back up from them. But I feel like Usman's grappling has really just either never been good or it's never been great, but now it's getting worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not really implementing that part of his game anymore. His takedown defense is still going to be good, but I'm worried for him in the fact that Usman has been striking with people. Other than with Colby Covington, who landed a bunch of good shots on him, by the way, throughout their fights, and I think won the last 3 rounds of their rematch, and that fight should have been a draw with a 10-8 to Usman in round 2 and round 1 being to him. That was also after Covington was off for a very long time. But he was able to land some really big shots on Colby Covington. And Burns was able to land some, Covington was able to land some good shots on him, on Usman. Burns was able to land some really big shots. And I think Burns kind of feared the power of Usman. He knew that maybe Usman had a bit too much pop in his shots for him. I think Khamzat Chimaev, because of his size and because of the fact that he is in no way going to fear the grappling of Usman whatsoever, is going to be the first guy to be able to really just walk down Usman and put hands on him. And Usman has never really felt that before. Like, you can say what you want about Gilbert Burns knew Usman didn't want to go to the ground, and that's why Usman didn't want to go to the ground, because maybe Burns in the gym was hitting all kinds of submissions on Usman off of his back, even if Usman was out wrestling him. You know what I'm saying? But Burns is a very small dude for the division. He doesn't have that imposing stature in the welterweight division to be able to walk down a guy like Usman, especially because he doesn't have the arms for it. He doesn't have the reach. He doesn't have the frame. He really kind of has to sort of play outside the range and let Usman do what he wants and try and catch Usman in that way. He can't walk down Usman for like a consistent enough time and be able to be effective with his striking on the front foot. That's just not what Burns did. A lot of the shots that we remember Burns for when it comes to his striking is a shot off the back foot with a counter shot. You know what I mean? You see that with him versus Hamzat Chimaev even in round 2. Backing up, boom. He lands the counter shot. That's a lot of the famous shots that we see from Gilbert Burns. When he drops Damian Maia, Maia's coming forward, bang, check hook. Drops him, hurts him, finishes him off. We see that a lot from Gilbert Burns in his fights. And I think with Khamzat Chimaev, he's going to be the first guy who's not going to be reactionary to Usman. Massive difference. When you look at every single one of Usman's recent opponents, Masvidal, Covington, Burns, all the names that you can think of, even Leon Edwards twice, they're all reacting to what Usman does because he has the stature. He's large for the division. He's got long arms for the division as well. He's really tough, at least maybe he used to be. I think that toughness is wearing off a little bit now. But he's really tough, great chin, long arms, big physical, imposing figure in the cage. Really imposing, can stay moving forward for the duration of the fight. Has the wrestling that he can use to back that up as well. So people are always reacting to whatever Usman does. Chimaev is going to go first. And that's such a change of pace for Usman. I in no way, watching what Chimaev has done to like, Meerschaert's a big dude. I know it's Meerschaert, but like still, just walked him down and smoked him. You know what I mean? And that's upper weight class against a much larger person than Kamaru Usman. I know Usman's listed at 6 foot, but really he's about barely 5'11" on a good day. When you really look at things like him next to Gaethje and stuff like that. He's not that, he's kind of short, to be honest with you. And Chimaev is going to be such an imposing guy in there. I think he's going to walk Usman back, and it's going to be normal to him, but abnormal to Usman. And maybe Usman can catch him with some shots coming in because Chimaev is open. I just think with him just bullying Usman backwards in a fight here, he's in his prime. And remember, I know I've been complaining about Khamzat Chimaev being off for a year. He's been off for a year and he's young. That's something that we have to consider here. He's been off for a year and he's young. Like, it's not bad time off. It's annoying for us because we all want to see Khamzat Chimaev fight again. When's he fighting again? Is he going to be back in a couple of weeks' time like we were used to seeing from him when he came up? He went from 28 to now he's just turned 29. You know what I'm saying? And by the time he fights in the cage against Usman in October, if that fight really is going to happen, he's going to be like, what, 20, like creeping towards 29 and a half. You know? We haven't seen him for already since September. So what's that? 8 months? By the time he fights, it'll be 11 months that we haven't seen him for. Not 11 months. 13 months that we haven't seen him for. It's a long time for a young dude who had some problems in his game shown to him in the Gilbert Burns fight back in April of 2022, which is even longer away. That's already 13 months away from now, and we ain't even at Abu Dhabi in October yet. But he showed that like, he destroyed Kevin Holland, got his confidence back, which is big for him because maybe if he was taking this fight right after the Burns one, it'd be like, does he really believe in himself the same way? Is he going to take it on the front foot, or is he going to be a bit more hesitant, seeing the skill level has changed as he's moved up the division? I just think it's going to be a problem for Usman. I don't think the grappling is. I think Usman's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, but this guy is a young fighter who's been out for a long time, and I don't hear anything about an injury from him. So I think he's just been training this whole time, thinking about moving up to middleweight. Who's he going to fight next? He's been calling out this name, that name, this name. He's always wanted to fight Usman. I think he's going to beat Usman on youth. I think that's going to be a huge factor for him. And if we go towards Usman and I start reading you some of these stats, 36 years of age, just turned, I know, but he's 36. And if you look at the fights that he's had, they've been tough on him. And that's something that needs to be mentioned here as well. Chimaev has had tough fights. He had a tough fight with Burns. I get that. But outside of that, has he had a tough fight? It's been plain sailing for him. And he fought reasonably quickly after the Burns fight as well, 5 months later. So it's not like he had a broken hand or something that he had to fix, a broken jaw, a broken nose, something along those lines. Maybe he did minorly, but, it's not a huge thing for him. When you look at the recent fights of Usman, it's all tough, really difficult matchups that he's had throughout his entire career. And I know he's won those matchups, but it's always been a grueling pace that he's had to set by decision. Usman's never had, outside of his Sergio Moraes fight, he's never had a fight where he's just left there unscathed. Even in the damage that he's doing to himself by winning. Is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying Usman's been beaten up every fight and he's always had a problem with like a broken nose or a broken jaw after every fight. But he's had to like really overexert himself to get every single win, bar a few of his career. You know what I mean? A decision to Yakovlev, a decision to Leon Edwards in his debut, decision to Alves, decision to Emil Meek, to Damian Maia, to Rafael Dos Anjos, to Tyron Woodley. All decisions that he's had to really train for, 5 hard rounds every time. A war with Colby Covington, where he took some damage. You know what I mean? He went to a decision with Masvidal. Gilbert Burns, he got cracked a few times, but he won. Masvidal, he left reasonably unscathed in the rematch. But then another tough 5 rounds with Covington, where he got hit a bunch of times as well. Then a tough 5 rounds with Leon Edwards, where he gets flatline KO'd at the end of it for the first time of his career. Then we see a hesitant version of him in the Leon Edwards fight, in the rematch. A hesitant, not quite so confident in himself. The grappling's not really working anymore. His striking's getting a bit too predictable. He's looking a bit slower. He's looking a bit broken down. It's not the same unwavered confidence that he had before he got flatline KO'd by Edwards. I think we're seeing a different Usman here. I think we're seeing a different Usman. And I know he's going to take a bit of time off to recover, but he's 36, man. He's 36 years of age, and he's had a massive range advantage over like a lot of his opponents. And I believe Khamzat Chimaev's reach isn't far off Usman's here. It's an inch off. I think that's the closest anyone's been recently, at least, to Usman's reach. Edwards, I believe, has 74. What's Gilbert Burns? I can click it here on Hamzat's thing. 71 for Gilbert Burns. That's his number. Gilbert Burns, 71 inches of reach. It's like, I think it's just a tough recipe for disaster for Usman here. And I can see Chimaev walking him down and putting like some big punches on him against a cage. And I don't know how Usman's going to deal with that, especially, and this is a huge part of this, Usman's no longer a champ. He's no longer a champion of his division. So it's not like no matter what, every fight's a 5-rounder. They've got, I think they have an obligation to do 2 title fights in Abu Dhabi, or at least put on a decent card in Abu Dhabi. I don't know if this is going to be a 5-rounder. And if I'm Chimaev's team at 170 after a bad weight cut or a tough weight cut, I'm like, don't make it a 5-rounder. You know what I mean? Let's have a 3-rounder here against Usman, because that's something Usman's not going to be as used to. You know what I mean? Chimaev's used to quick finishes. He's used to 3-rounders. He hasn't had a main event. I mean, he was scheduled for 5 against Nate Diaz, but he didn't even end up doing it. So I feel like this is more normal to Chimaev, the circumstances of this fight. And he's the younger dude. I've got him by KO. I've got him by KO in the first round, and I've got him by uppercut. I think it's going to be like an Ikram Aliskerov type finish. And, yeah, I've got him by uppercut, man. I've got him by uppercut. Respect to Usman for taking this fight because he doesn't have to. But this is the fight that he has to take, right? If he really wants to prove that he's still got it and he's still at the top and he wants to get right back in the mix for title shots and title fights and massive matchups, this is the fight he has to take. And I think it's a bad one for him. If Chimaev has a long time to dial in on his weight cut and make sure that he makes it well and it's a 3-rounder, like let's say the main event is Makhachev-Dariush, 5-round main event, co-main event, might be something along the lines of, I don't know, maybe it will be a 5-round co-main, and maybe that is a bit more interesting, but if this is a 3-rounder, I know who I'm picking here. I'm taking Chimaev to walk him down, biggest frame Usman's ever fought, most dangerous frame. Edwards don't come forwards. He doesn't throw power punches. And he's got the longest range as well. 75 inches of reach at 170. An inch off of Usman's. I don't like this for Usman. I think this is a bad fight for him. And I think the real loser out of all of this is Belal Muhammad. Because nice win over Burns, dude. On a week's notice when Burns had one arm. Oh, never mind. Guess not that impressive. Oh, well. Oh, yeah, remember when we promised you that title shot? Yeah, Chimaev just uppercut KO'd Usman in a scrap on the feet for a round that he got the better of because Usman's a bit older now. Yeah, sorry, mate. Chimaev's a huge pay-per-view star and he just flatlined Usman. What did you do? Oh, took Burns to a decision when he had one arm. Oh, right. Okay, you versus Shavkat sounds good, Belal. Let's do you versus Shavkat, dude. Nice title shot, by the way. This is great, though. This is a great matchup if it happens at 170. Any other division, don't make no sense. If Chimaev beats Usman at 185, Adesanya can still hide behind, because we know Adesanya don't want to fight Chimaev. Let's be real. Well, he will. I'm not denying Adesanya will. He's a savage. He will fight Chimaev if that is the fight. But you know that's not ideal for him. And he knows that. He's not a dumb guy. So he'll be like, oh, well, Usman wasn't even ranked at middleweight. You still ain't beat a ranked opponent at middleweight. So I don't think it holds any value there. Do it at 170. And while I'm at it, do McGregor versus Chandler at 155 as well. Because I ain't trying to see that at 170 either. Because it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, Chimaev, Usman, massive news. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.